U.S.-led airstrikes in eastern Syria, killing more than 20 civilians, including women and children. We're now joined from Bristol by Tony Gosling, who is an investigative journalist, to discuss this further. Tony, thanks for joining us. What do you make of this the scandal, really, of continuing civilian death toll at the hands of these U.S.-led forces in Syria?
Well, look, the obvious thing to say here is, what is America doing in Syria? We've had the announcement last week from Iraqis in Iraq, and also from the Russians in Syria, that ISIS has been defeated, effectively. So what are the United States Air Force doing in Syria? Syria is somewhere where we know that the US has wanted regime change. This has been made public by General Wesley Clark, that this was one of the countries where the US wanted regime change. He was given inside information in the Pentagon not long after the September the 11th attacks, that part of the agenda was regime change in Syria. Now we've seen that the Russians have stepped in, eliminated all of the strongholds of ISIS in Syria. So what is the United States doing there? I think 90% of the world's population are asking exactly that right now, because regime change is illegal, and the United States have been told very, very clearly by the Russians that they're not needed anymore.
And so, Tony, if the United States does remain in Syria, as it's so at this point, what will be the effects of that, do you think?
Well, the main problem, of course, is that there is a complete riding roughshod over international law. Not only international law, but domestic US law, because they haven't obtained the permission of Congress to do this. And there is, I mean, what the British are doing, rather like the United States, is that they're sending in their special forces, that is to say, an unofficial part of the military. In the United States and Britain, it's actually doesn't come under any kind of proper democratic scrutiny, the special forces. That is, in Britain, for example, the SAS, the commandos as well are part of that, the parachute regiment. And these special forces are being used increasingly as an unofficial tool, whereby the elements within the military can bypass Parliament, bypass Congress, and just do what they want with the military. Now, this, of course, is against international law, and it's not surprising that we've seen statements from the United Nations Secretary General condemning some of these activities and saying, well, look, you know, I think we actually do need to keep to international law, folks. And I suppose they're trying to shame the Americans into saying, I think it's about time you left. The world is looking at you now, watching you, and can see that what you're doing is illegal.
Very well, Tony. We'll leave it there at that. But of course, as always, we appreciate you taking your time out to speak to us here at Press TV.